Let's have a look at some of Bill Gates' financial activity in Africa up till now to help us work out whether he's been an influence for good or bad, just by looking at some facts, which we shouldn't be frightened of, right?
Bill Gates, for so long the world's richest man, who famously announced he would give most of it away.
He's not got around to that yet, has he? That promise is not kept.
The giving pledge. The giving pledge.
Hasn't gotten around to that yet, is he?
Yeah, no.
Okay, that's so funny.
Yet as Mr. Gates' powerful friends gather in Davos, the latest warning that the Gates Foundation has become too powerful and may not be the force for good so many world leaders say it is.
If we can't trust billionaires and world leaders at Davos, I don't know what the world's come to. What's going on even in Davos now? Oh.
The study from the pressure group Global Justice Now paints a picture of the Gates Foundation, partly as an expression of corporate America's desire to profit from Africa, and partly a damning critique of its effects.
You could have a case where the initial research is done by a Gates-funded institution. The media reporting on how well that research is conducted is done. The media outlet is a Gates-funded outlet, and maybe a Gates-funded journalist from a media program, and then the program is implemented more widely by a Gates-funded NGO. I mean, there are some very insular circles here.
How much?
So we've reported on this before. For instance, like PBS NewsHour, they didn't have their own science and news segment thing, so Bill Gates decided to fund it. So now he gives money to the PBS NewsHour, and he funds their science reporting.
Do you think it affects their reporting?
So that I don't think so.
I don't
so
see
then
how.
Bill Gates puts all this money into vaccine development, and then he tells the PBS people that he just gave the money to cover this vaccine thing I just developed. So they cover it, and then he also has the manufacturing distribution through another NGO, non-government organization, to distribute that vaccine, Gavi.
He also pays for a journalism school.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he also pays for the literal journalism school that the journalists that are going to cover this at the journalism outlet, he also funds.
Yeah, but Trump University is the worst thing of our time.
But Trump, not this. This is Trump's was just to this.
Are Trump University graduates saddled with debt their whole lives? By the way, I don't think they are they?
Which is the bigger scam?
Does it cost 6 figures to go? No, I don't think it does.
There are some very insular circles here.
So that's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
These insular circles, meaning it's all funded by the richest man in the world, Bill Gates. He develops a product. He funds the journalists that are going to cover it. He funds the news outlets that they're going to be employed by that cover him, and that also cover him distributing it through the nonprofit organizations that he developed. It's unbelievable. And then I have people like my old roommate saying to me, Jimmy, he's trying to save people in Africa. That's what he said. Jimmy, the guy's getting...
I've never heard anyone say something that's stupid, even who is a Democrat that I've ever been around. They usually are like, I don't know, Bill Gates, I don't care. That's the best I've ever heard. I've never heard someone actually go, because someone older than me should remember that he's a piece of shit like I do, when they're hitting him in the face with pies and what have you.
Remember that?
And like, I remember before he bought the news, I get a millennial or somebody I know is a millennial is like, don't tell me the giving pledge isn't real. So that's somebody young. Somebody older, I mean, I don't even know. There's no excuse for that.
The guy who signed the giving pledge invested $55 million into BioNTech Pfizer right before the pandemic, and then cashed out for $500 million. Isn't that amazing? The guy who's going to give it all away.
Well, that's great. He made a profit and did good.
Yeah.
How much help can one man provide?
Among the many criticisms, the idea that private finance can solve the problems of the developing world. Should poor farmers be trapped into debt by having to use chemicals or fertilizers underwritten by offshoots of the foundation?
Oh, I know this one. It's yes.
Private finance initiatives like the one behind this hospital in Lesotho, paid for partly by Mr. Gates' philanthropy, also come under attack. The repayments for this now cost Lesotho more than 50% of its entire health budget.
Is this global philanthropy, or is it like an intercontinental version of the Simpsons monorail episode where someone turns up in a town and goes, do you know what you guys need? You need an AI hospital, and we can handle that for you. Yes, we do have some investments in AI. Don't think about that now. Just think about your new, sparkling, fantastic, razzmatastic, splendiferous new incubator machines. Well, where are we going to get these incubator machines? We'll handle that for you. And are they going to be expensive? Is there a chance the track will bend? Not on your life.
I've sold monorails to Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, and by gum, it put them on the map.
So there's the creation of a problem, there's the offering of the solution, there's the pretense of philanthropy. In the old days of colonialism, like the British used to just turn up with guns and nick people's countries and gold and diamond mines and tea and coffee, spices, whatever the hell was there, human beings. At least then we knew this is evil. If Bill Gates was doing the slave trade, he'd call it some sort of philanthropic initiative to take people on a cruise to America and then a kibbutz working in the cotton industry.
Some aid experts have warned repeatedly that the focus on high-profile, headline-grabbing diseases undermines wider attempts by African governments to reduce the poverty that causes them. Supporters of philanthropy would argue that it can get past corrupt governments and produce results without having to go through the bureaucracy of the United Nations. But critics of Mr. Gates ask whether it's right that one foundation with more money than entire African countries should wield so much power and influence.
And the answer to that question is, of course, yes, it is right, because how else would you be able to impose all these pilot schemes on the people of Africa and still call it kindness? Whether it's the BMJ, those charity workers that are on the ground there in Africa, or the people of those regions themselves, it seems like the voices that are most important are ones that actually oppose what they're saying, even though some of us might think that they have an agenda to create a cashless, social credit scored, highly managed, centralized, controlled, authoritarian system where all of the resources and power funnel upwards into an establishment elite, and the rest of us are essentially automatons and drones unable to make decisions for ourselves, and they can point to the success of Africa. Come on, it worked in Africa. Why don't you give it a try? If it really was philanthropy, you would listen to the voices of the people that they're purporting to help. If it really was philanthropy during the pandemic period, you'd have heard a lot less talk about patents and a lot more talk about issuing effective medicines.
So, you know, Bill Gates has the thing to turn poop into water. He financed this whole thing. I believe, by the way, California, I don't know if it's his specific company. I bet it is. California has approved that. Tap water will be wastewater. There's been...
No kidding.
That just happened. I don't know if it's a Bill Gates one, but I'm sure it is. It's the only guy I've seen talk about it. But he was in Africa. I'm watching, because we're making fun of him on the talk down, you know? And he's telling like, yeah, in Africa, like they have clean water is a problem. And like, now we can't build sewage systems in all these countries. That's the first thing he said. Like, why? I'll bet it's cheaper than the contraption that you made by like a lot. But I think that's probably it's a public thing.
Yeah,
that he
that
won't
would be a
able
public
to,
works thing.
Yeah, and he won't be able to control that. There's no way this high-tech poop alchemy system was more cheaper than just building like
some infrastructure.
A basic infrastructure. There's not a chance. But it really stuck out. Well, they're not going to do that. Why? Instead, you're going to drink like airplane water.
You know, what Bill Gates is doing seems a little worse than letting Alex Jones tweet. It really does.
Remember they said about Elon Musk? In fact, Sasha tweeted this. Probably somebody gave it to him to tweet.
Sasha,
one man shouldn't be able to control that much.
They're talking about Elon Musk?
It might have even been about Mark Zuckerberg back after Brexit. Because of Facebook, they were mad at. Mm-hmm. How come one man can control so much?
But not Bill Gates.
Yeah.
So here's revealed. Documents show Bill Gates has given $319 million to media outlets.
Oh, that's why he can.
Oh, that's why. Keep in mind, that's just the money he pays the media under his own name.
Yeah.
That's not the money that Microsoft gives the media.
Well, Gavi gives some.
That's not the money that Gavi gives. Bill Gates, after reaping huge profits selling BioNTech shares, he trashes the effectiveness of COVID vaccines. We covered this.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
We didn't know. I like how he does this. At the time, we didn't know. But
that then we didn't know, but now we know. And boy, they were effective for him. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it worked pretty good for him.
Remember this? Remember when he said this?
Anyway, so antibodies, antivirals. We think we can also have very early in an epidemic a thing you can inhale that will mean that you can't be infected, a blocker, an inhaled blocker. We also need to fix the three problems with vaccines. The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection. And they have very short duration, particularly in the people who matter, which are old people. And every one of those things is fixed.
So that's him after he cashed in his stock for $500 million. He invested $55 million before COVID, said everybody's got to get vaccinated, everybody should be... And then all of a sudden afterwards, when he got his money, he's got a new thing. It's an infection blocker that you're going to inhale.
Yeah. Do you know why he's doing this?
Because he's guess what? He's funding that thing too. No kidding, Jimmy. No kidding.
Do you know why? He's very passionate about this.
Helping people. He wants to help people.
Well, yes, but more specifically, it sounds like I'm saying this to attack him, but I'm telling you what he said is to lower the population, not by the vaccine being dangerous. It's, of course, not dangerous. It's because he read statistics that when people are more vaccinated and they have more medical care, they tend to have less kids. You know, because in his weird half an AI mind, people only have kids because their kids might die. So obviously they would do the math and have less. But this is for the goal of lowering the population. That's what this is for, according to him. He's not trying to poison people with it. He literally believes that's the path. And what happens when people don't want to just have less kids? I wonder what other great ideas he'll come up with.
By the way, the vaccines were safe and effective, and they didn't, although they weren't infection blocking, they certainly slowed the spread.
The safety is what's supposed to make less population. I swear to God, that's what he says on his thing.
And they're not going to, they're great. They keep you out of the hospital, keep you from getting sick or dead.
They keep you from slowing up the hospitals.
Oh, my God. You don't want to clog up hospital beds, Kurt.
You could turn them unprofitable.
Hospital beds.
Yeah, they're not going to make a profit.
SK advances Gates-backed COVID-19 antiviral spray. Oh, no kidding.
South Korea? What's SK?
I guess that's South Korea.
Oh, yeah, of course.
No kidding. It's the Bill Gates backed. You mean backed? You mean funded? So that's what backed means. It means funded.
Well, South
Bill
Korea's
Gates funded.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, backed with money. It's not like students backing Hamas by making a sign that says don't kill Gaza. It's actual backing.
Let's remember that Bill Gates met with Jeffrey Epstein many, many times. Just after he was convicted.
Well, he knew him since the early 90s.
Yeah.
You're supposed to abandon a guy who's done so much good around the world?
Let's remember this. Remember this interview? This is when Bill Gates tried to threaten Judy Woolworth. Watch him try
Judy
to
Woolworth?
watch him try to threaten Judy because he funds this.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is funding this, so he did not expect this question from her. Watch this.
It was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have.
And if there's anybody who needs money, it's Bill Gates. So that's why I'm meeting with a pedophile, because I thought I could get some money.
Signer of the Giving Pledge, Bill Gates. Hasn't given his money away.
Haven't given it away.
He's meeting with other people, like Oprah asking people for Lahaina donations, going around.
Yeah. The balls of these people.
Well,
I wonder how much money Oprah has actually donated to Lahaina now. I'm going to guess not much. More than was it 5 million? She's worth $2 billion. She could go in and rebuild Lahaina herself.
Yeah, Oprah's a huge scumbag. It always has been. I don't know why people thought she was great. You just watch it, you could tell something's way off.
Way off with her. Here we go.
Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now.
At least a couple of years.
So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continued to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well,
he's dead.
I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
So here comes the lesson he's going to give to Judy Woodward.
Yeah, this should be a charisma on command class online.
Watch this. Watch what he says to her. What's the lesson?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful.
That's an evil, nefarious, evil MFer. Did you see what he said to her?
He's dead, bitch, so you should be careful.
So you should be careful. And did you see that smile he got? You should be careful.
Your career could commit suicide.
That's right. We could suicide your career. I could pull the funding from this show right now.
I own global health technology.
Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. That's what he's saying. He's saying that to her.
I interpret it that way.
Yes.
That doesn't really correspond to the question.
So you better be careful.
Is there any lessons to be learned? He's dead, so you always have to be careful. There's a lesson for you, Bill, not for me.
And look at that. That's a clenched jaw. That's a you.
Judy, I'm worried you might self-harm.
You son of a bitch. Yeah, Judy.
My friend Jeffrey self-harmed. My entire senior high school class that picked on me self-harmed.
Look at that. That's a clenched jaw, a tight lip. He's not really. He's like, you son of a bitch. You got it coming.
And I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy, very proud of the work of the foundation. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
Yeah, I bet. Not your crimes.
Sure.
But also, that's not so hot either, the foundation. For the record, that's not much better than Epstein.
That's right. Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Boston, Massachusetts, and we're going to Europe. Do you live in Europe? We're going to be there. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.